Hi guys, I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Sarah Millerhouse and I will be using the January Color Kit to make the layout today. So first I wanted to talk about the colors that are in the January Color Kits and all of the wonderful things you would get. So the first color I'll be sharing is a spritz. It's called Burst My Bubble and I will be using this on the background today. The next color is a Shimmerz, and it's a beautiful navy called In the Navy, and I will also be using this on the cut file in this process video. The next color is an Inklings. It's called Rose Colored Glasses, and it is gorgeous, and I will be using it for the letters on the cut file today. And then the next color is a Shimmerz, and it is called Silver Bells. And I will be using it for splatters on the cut file. And then the last color that you get is a Shimmerz called Coal. And this is the only one that I did not use in today's process video. So I'll be using that on my next layout this month. And then you also get these dots, and I have not used them yet, but I am planning on using those on my next layout. So I hope you enjoy the process. So I am starting my layout by using the cut file that comes with the January kits, and it says Magical New Beginnings. So that's a perfect cut file for the month of January. And you can see I have cut it twice on my Cricut mat, and I am leaving it on the Cricut mat as I am painting on it and working with it because it helps it stay flat as it dries. So you'll see I'm going to give a couple little tricks to that as we go along, but the first color that I am using is In the Navy, and I am painting that just right, covering that whole cut file. I'm really just going to be using the outline of the letters and then the word new in the middle. So that's what you'll see on the finished layout out of that part of the cut file. Then on the bottom, I start by spraying that cut file with the spritz, Burst My Bubble. It ends up being a little light, so I go back, and on top of that, I add the Inklings Rose Colored Glasses. So you'll see that in a second. So what I did there, because the Inklings comes dry, you just spray a little bit of water and let it sit for a second, and it's going to be ready in just a moment. So in the meantime, I go and add some splatters of the Silver Bells Shimmerz. Those come already wet and already ready for you to use. So I do, when I'm using these as a tool to splatter, I do just dip my paintbrush in the pot of color, and then I dip it in just a touch of water, and that helps it thin it out just a little bit to be able to splatter with it more easily. So that's just a little trick. And then now my Inklings is ready, so I'm going to go and paint those letters. So for this part of the cut file, I'm just using the centers of the letters. I did dry it off because I had sprayed it with the spritz. So I'm just drying that off real quick. And then I'm going to go back with the Rose Colored Glasses Inklings. So I'm just using the middles of these letters, and you'll see I'm going to do something kind of fun with them. So I'm only painting that part of the cut file. This is really easy to do. I didn't have to do any like tips or tricks with the cut file. I really just cut it straight like it comes, and then put it on the mat twice. And here I'm making sure I'm getting a good coating of that. This color is beautiful and so shiny. I absolutely love it. And it will play a little bit of tricks with us with the videoing of it, because there's so much shimmer and shine. It kind of picks up a reflection from the room. So it's a very lovely pink. So it kind of looks a little orange there, but it's not, it's pink. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am taking off the excess of the cardstock because the different mediums can kind of act like a glue. I want to take out the pieces that I don't need because I don't want them to stick together. So I am going to let the part that I'm going to be using dry on my mat, but the pieces that are going to be trash that end up, I'm just throwing away, I'm going to go ahead and take those out while it's wet so that they don't get stuck later. That just makes the process easier. And then down below, I'm just using the letters. So I'm going to pull off all the extra pieces and then let that dry. So I'm just sitting that off to the side to dry really well. And I am going to be using Vicki Boutin's Print Shop collection with these colors. It matches perfectly with the colors that came in the color kit. So the navy, in the navy is beautiful and matches the navy that's in this collection. And then the rose colored glasses and the silver bells looks beautiful with it as well. Okay, so what I'm doing with my letters here, so I'm pulling up those letters. You can see they're just the loose letters now that are painted with the inklings. I am pulling those up and I'm putting them in a texture folder. So I'm going to be running it through my machine here to add texture to those letters. So this is super simple, not a hard technique, but it gives you a lot of texture and makes it much more interesting on the layout. So it really did add a lot of pop to the cut file and it made it stand out on my finished layout. So I'll show you a close-up just a second. But this is super quick and super simple. No skill involved here. You just have to put them in the texture folder and then run it through. If you have a Sizzix, or mine is a Spellbound, I think. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I can't think of the name of it, but just any die cutting or texture machine that you have. If you have a Texture Boutique, anything like that will work. So I'm going to be just putting those letters back on the cut file, and you can see all of the texture that added. Oh my gosh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And it makes it pop up off of the cut file. And then you can see I did add a white layer behind the cut file in Cricut. I just used the offset tool to give it a shadow. So that was super simple. All right, and what I'm doing here on the background, I am using a Foundations Mixed Media white cardstock. It's a Vicki Boutin American Crafts product, and it holds all of the medium really, really well. So I love to use this paper when I'm adding any of the wet mediums on the background because it doesn't warp like some papers will do. And you don't have to use any gesso or anything. It's just super simple. You just start spraying it on. So I started with the Spritz, the Burst My Bubble. That's the main foundation of the background. And then I am adding just a little bit of the Inklings rose-colored glasses to that just to give it some more pops of color. And you'll see I'm just kind of splattering, adding some of that with my paintbrush. This is a very simple technique. Anybody can do it. And then I'm going to set that off to dry for a little while. So I cut a strip of paper from the patterned paper in the Print Shop collection, and then I'm just using my scissors here. These are actually herb scissors. So I do have scissors that are specifically intended for this purpose from like a scrapbooking company, but my herb scissors work the best to make the fringe. So I did that, and then I'm going to be adhering down these little strips of paper of my fringe, and I'm kind of adding them on crooked here and there. So this is an easy thing to do. The patterned paper actually had them kind of offset a little bit crooked, and then I emphasized that when I glued them on here and added a couple of more little pieces of patterned paper as I went. All right, so here on this layout, that cut file is definitely going to shine. And then I have a photo from New Year's Eve of 2020. I think is what my husband and I went back and forth with. What year was that? We tried to find it in our camera rolls and we couldn't. So, but I'm almost 100% sure it's from 2020. So New Year's Eve, and that's a perfect photo for the title Magical New Beginnings, because a new year is always a new start with new goals. And so I love that cut file for this photo. So what I am doing, I did do some fussy cutting of the flowers, cutting those flowers out of a piece of patterned paper. And now I am going through with the 3 biggest clusters that I fussy cut, and I am triangulating those on my layouts. So just meaning I am adding them in 3 spots on the layout that kind of form a triangle. So that top right, the middle left kind of poking out behind the cut file, and then the bottom right is where my last big cluster is going to be. Right there, I was just gluing down or adhering down some of that fringe just so when I start gluing stuff to it, it has a really solid surface. Because if I just glued it to the fringe is movable, so I don't want that on the background. All right, and I've got the basic layout. So this is what the basic layout is going to look like. And then I'm going to be going back and adding a bunch of details to kind of take it to the next level. So my photo, I'm going to back with 2 patterned papers from the Print Shop collection. One of them is a beautiful stripe. It's got all of the colors from the collection in the stripes, but they're kind of subtle. They're real thin little lines of color. So that's going to go right behind the photo, and then a bolder pattern that plays nicely with the rose-colored glasses because it's a 2-tone patterned paper. So there's a very bold kind of orangish red color, and then that really light pink is in there. So it's perfect to match the colors that I used for the title. And you can see the word new in the middle of the cut file where the navy is really playing well off of that patterned paper. So I love how that all looks together. I added some craft foam to the back of the cut file before I adhered it down. That's what I was doing, some pretty thick craft foam. And now I'm going to be going and adding flowers. So anytime I am adding florals to a background, a lot of people just glue them down flat. I never glue down flowers flat. I always bend up the edges of all of my flowers. So I love the texture that adds to a layout. And I can tell you, I can attest that even after a layout has sat in a pile for a year, underneath lots of other layouts that are heavy, my bent up flowers are still bent up and still add texture to the layout. So I love to add, I bend up the leaves, kind of just pinch them in between my fingers, and then bend up the petals so that all of it looks like a bouquet of flowers would actually look. So it's something that I do, and it definitely gives the layout character for sure. I don't like anything flat. So I'm just adding a few leaves from the ephemera that came in the collection. And then some of them are fussy cut flowers that I cut out of the patterned paper. And I am going to have a few things overlapping, like just the leaves overlapping the cut file. I want the cut file to be front and center. I want that title to come through. But I do love a layered look. So I do want just a couple of little places for things to overlap so that it draws your eye in. And then I added just a couple little phrases to my photo, and then I'm going to add a little phrase right above the word beginnings, kind of offset to the right. And that says, remember these things. And then there are just some stickers that came in the collection, so I added a couple of those behind the bouquet. And now I am going through with some embellishments from my stash. These are half pearls, and then I'm going to be adding some crystals from Buttons Galore, and then pops of color from scrapbook.com to add a few more little details, and that is the layout. So I love how shimmery and shiny the products are on my layout, and how vivid they really are in real life. They're absolutely gorgeous and add lots of shine to my layout. I hope you enjoyed the process and that you'll give it a like and tap the bell for notifications, and have a beautiful creative day. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.